The 2022 Sierra 1500 Denali
Ultimate Edition.
This is their most expensive and luxurious truck offering, and for the 2022 model year, both the Silverado and this GMC Sierra received a fairly major mid-cycle update. It gets all new exterior styling, some trim level changes, and more importantly, their interior spaces have been radically updated, and you can thank brands like Ram and Ford for that. So let's quickly talk about what the Denali Ultimate is first. This is an $80,000 luxury truck, so you're expecting it to feel expensive inside, and it does. The leather is very nice. It is laser etched with the topography of the Denali Mountains. It has lots of real wood throughout the cabin and a suede headliner. It has a surprisingly low noise floor. It is a very quiet cabin. The interior electronics are Android, so it has built-in Google Maps and Google Assistant. It is a tablet-style display that is mounted into the dash itself. You can argue how it looks aesthetically, but I do think it's better integrated than what is found in the Ram. And thankfully, all of your primary controls are also physical, like HVAC and all of your off-road and traction controls and drive modes. They're based on physical switches and knobs. Your gauge cluster is all digital and configurable. It's stuff you've seen in other OEMs at this point. And it has a very large heads-up display, which works quite well in typical GM fashion. The big story when it comes to interior electronics is the addition of Super Cruise. Depending on trim level and what truck package you can get it in your GM product, and it works exceptionally well. I highly suggest you watch our Super Cruise video where we go into this in depth. When it comes to the rest of the interior, these seats for the Denali Ultimate Edition are multi-way adjustable. They are heated and cooled, and they are massaging. They feel like they're right out of an Escalade. They feel very good. The rear seats are quite comfortable, and this crew cab is enormous. So you have lots of headroom, lots of legroom for both the front and rear occupants. And interior storage is quite good. The door cards are big, the center armrests are big, and the glove boxes, both of them, are very usable. The one thing I will say is when it comes to visibility, yes, there's a lot of glass in this car, but if you are a shorter person, the dash is very high and the hood is very long, so that might cause some problems for you. When it comes to the bed configurability, it's what you're expecting from a GMC product at this point. It has their multi-way adjustable tailgate and their carbon composite or carbon pro bed liner. It's supposed to be more resistant to impacts and scratches. When it comes to bed usability, I'll leave that up to you. I highly suggest you look at what both Ford and Ram is doing to figure out what best suits what you need. But with that, I think it's time for us to head in the shop and put this truck up on the lift. Mark, we're underneath the GMC Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate.
That's because we want to get professional. I only like dealing with professional trucks nowadays, Jack.
Well, that's GMC. It's professional grade. You know what platform this is, Mark?
The T1X.
T1XX.
Use your old tailgate to play cornhole.
You know how I know it's professional?
How?
This has got 22-inch wheels. Nothing says truck, off-road, capable tower with these big-ass wheels on here.
So this is, to be frank, probably the least sophisticated body structure out of the three American truck offerings, right? This and the Chevy 1500 are essentially the same other than some features. You have the Ford, which uses aluminum everywhere, and you have the Ram, which has coil springs. This is still on leaf. But you do get a CMC or carbon composite bed and not magnetic ride dampers, but adaptive dampers front and rear on this Denali trim level. The big thing is the drivetrains. You either get the 6.2 liter as standard with the 10-speed automatic.
That's a V8.
V8, the same 6.2 liter LT1 or whatever the truck variant is called that you could say you get in a Camaro or Corvette.
Okay, yeah, right.
With some intake manifold changes and transmission changes, obviously. But this has the 3-liter inline-6 Duramax diesel. It is still a rattly diesel, but what it does return is some truly impressive fuel economy. During my drive, which was, to be fair, not at low speed or puttering around, I got 24 miles per gallon combined, which in a truck that is the size of a small building is very, very impressive.
You know, the one thing about this is interesting with GM is they're the only brand that has two different variants of the same truck, the Silverado and this, and then they have the SUV equivalent using the same architecture, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So they've spread this out and they're maximizing their ability to have different types for a different type of market. Like you get on the interior, and I know you talked about that, it's like, I cannot believe how much better this is than it used to be. So there is that cool aspect if you want that long distance tour with great fuel economy with this, while still some of this is counterintuitive. I don't know. It's just amazing how far trucks have come in this past 10 years.
And how expensive they've gotten.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
$80,000.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's a totally different story.
Well, whatever. With that, Mark, let's take this thing for a quick drive.
All right.
You ready for some professional grade dieseling, Mark?
I'm sure this is going to sound great.
Nothing like an inline 60s. I got to warm up the rear tires for a second.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Here, let me.
Just what I needed, Mark. What sweet pre-recorded engine noise are you playing?
Oh, since it doesn't have fake engine noise, I'm playing the Mercedes EQE fake engine noise, so we have a little bit more authentic sound to this.
Perfect. All right, joking aside, I know we talked about it in the shop, how this is sort of one of the older architectures you can get out of the American trucks. But I think when you take it out of sport mode and you soften up the dampers, it's fine. It's a very refined vehicle to be in. About as refined as that noise from the EQE.
All right, I'll turn that off. So, my first impression of getting in this, and you were like, oh man, it's incredible truck, man. Oh, it's GM, my new favorite brand. Well, even though you do own a GM technically. So I didn't expect this interior to be that great, honestly. And then, the Ram is so good now, the F-150 is so good. The things like the real wood, the little subtle interior details in here make it feel like a much better place than it really is. Everything's physical. I know you talked about a lot of this on the interior part, but when the thing is it's a body on frame vehicle, right? You can't get over
without coil springs, unlike the Ram.
Right. So it has the most truckish ride out of all of the trucks, but the interior space makes up for a lot of it. It dulls a lot of that down, and I really enjoy all the technology. Everything is functional about this truck. And the ride quality, while still being a bit truckish, is pretty well sorted, and it is quiet. It definitely is quiet.
I think the thing that, all trucks pretty much suck to drive as a daily vehicle, right? The front end's really ponderous. It's not fast, particularly as the diesel. But what's holding me on this truck, and I hate to admit it, is on long drives. We drove this to and from Autobahn for a shoot we did, and we drove it all the way up to Wisconsin, where Scott's shop is King Motorsports.
Yeah.
The fact that I can just put on Super Cruise, get a massage, and for it to return good fuel economy and for it to be so quiet, it's a good long distance truck. I mean, that's sort of what sold me on this.
It does check the important boxes about a truck, right? If you're getting a luxury truck like this, if you're spending $80,000 for this,
which is an insane amount of money.
It is, but it does the luxury truck things good. The seating, the massaging function, and the fuel economy is key. The fact that you can tow with this, that it does the core functions really, really well, and all the technology works is icing on the cake. You don't need all of this crap, but the fact that it's implemented properly, and then the physical stuff, it works. It is a really good truck. It's just way too expensive for what it is, I'll be honest.
Yep, and I think objectively, the part that's nothing's aluminum and it's old does detract from a lot of this mentally in the back of my head. It does eat at me. But the core inputs when you're driving, the 10-speed automatic in this does a good job with this inline 6. It doesn't have the weird shutters that the Ford variant of this 10-speed has.
You don't get any of the drivetrain shutter, the transfer case shutter, the rear end, even though it's old school, doesn't feel, it just, everything really
works.
Does feel like it's sorted out here.
Yeah, the steering's very truckish, and yes, it doesn't stop that well, but if you are used to trucks and you've come from other Chevy products, this is a huge step forward. Do I think it's going to get you out of a new F-150 or a new Ram? No, but it'll
definitely get you away from a new Tundra.
Yes.
I would be honest. As much as I love Toyota, in the truck world, I don't feel like they did enough here, especially when you get on the inside of this thing and you drive this. Is for the amount of time that you do and get the fuel economy you do, this is a really good offering.
Yep. In the 3 to 5 year ownership period that you can predict its potential reliability long term, I think this is a really strong offering. And if you already like GM products, you're going to like this.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and we said this about the last SUVs we drove. Everything has gotten so good and also expensive. It makes it very, very difficult to choose what you're going to choose. I know there's brand affinity here. If you're a GMC person or a Chevy truck person, you're just going to get this instantly. But if you're cross-shopping all of these, as something you're going to dump in 3 to 5 years, I'd have a really hard time choosing.
Yeah, I do too, Mark. So with that, I think it's time for us to head into the final thoughts and wrap up this video, sir.
Thank you. Oh, let me fix that.
Final thoughts on the GMC Sierra 1500 Denali
Ultimate.
in crew cab form with a 3-liter Duramax diesel. Look, trucks are like sports teams or potato chips. People are dedicated to their brand, and it doesn't matter what I'm going to say about it. So it's going to be very difficult to convince you to move from your Ford or from your Ram. That said, if you don't have any truck loyalties, what the GMC does well, particularly at this very expensive price point, is luxury. The interior space is genuinely very nice. It's quiet, it's comfortable, it's got massaging seats. Most importantly, it's got Super Cruise. That said, from an architecture perspective, it's the least sophisticated. It's probably one of the older architectures out there. It doesn't use a ton of aluminum, doesn't have coil springs, doesn't have magnetic ride dampers, or really any advancements in that regards. It is, however, a good truck. It's got the 10-speed automatic that works very, very well, and the Duramax diesel, compared to the 6.2, does return very, very good fuel economy. 24 miles per gallon in a truck this heavy is impressive. So with that, thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon.
You know, my doctor, he's a pretty smart dude. He's helped me with a lot. After that incident, he said, I can't ever play this game that I love so much ever again. You know, and I can't accept that. I cannot accept that I can never play something I love so much ever again.